narrative in terms of like what you were able to achieve both before and after the promotion. So I think I'll just focus on the capacity that you built in terms of what, the things that we discussed already.
Okay.
Uh, I don't think I have any follow-up questions. I think our discussion was really thorough because
Okay.
it was like one primary problem that needed to be solved, and you helped solve it using a variety of strategies. Is there anything you'd like to add for CX Enterprises?
I don't think so.
The
Like
Rich
I
Top.
also helped
Uh-huh,
helped
uh-huh.
sell the company. I guess is
Oh
the
yeah,
last
yeah.
piece there.
Let's talk a bit about that. What did you have to do in order to achieve a successful sale?
It was very similar to what we had already been doing, which is
Okay.
building out a successful platform that had a proven track record.
Mhm. And then, for Ridgetop, I know you didn't include it on your old resume, but I think we should be able to squeeze it in if you're comfortable with that.
Okay.
Uh, why exactly did you leave this organization?
So I worked for DSEC Communities um, before this, and this was a production home builder, and I worked for them right into the kind of the home housing crash, and
Um,
so the company had downsized dramatically, and um, at one point I basically had furloughed my hours down, so I started working at this other company as a controller, kind of both, and so I kind of had my feet in both companies during that year, and then I switched over to CX after that. So it's kind of a weird transition period, based on the that scenario, I guess. And they they were a government contractor, so they primarily were like an engineering company that was doing um, projects for the government, like NASA and the Department of Energy, and they also started slowing down. And so I was kind of leery of staying in another company that was going to slow down. So I just decided I didn't want to work in multiple places anymore and wanted to go back to full time controller job. So I was kind of doing basically consulting during that period. I almost could say I was.
we could
Um,
probably move it to like a side projects
yeah, that's why I
section.
left it off because you can almost skip it, and I went from the one to the other
Right.
as far as time frame. Because if you really put the dates in there, they overlap.
Yeah,
So
let's put it as a side project. I think that would be better because then we'd also be able to showcase your LinkedIn recommendation in like a very neat sort of way. I mean, if there's like space and it makes sense to do so, I have to review the recommendation. Can you tell me more about what you were hired to achieve here for Rich Top?
just all the traditional controller work. So there's a fairly small accounting department, just a couple people, and so I was pretty hands-on, roll up your sleeves type of work where I was doing a lot of the accounting myself and reporting, and there's a lot of government reporting you're doing when you're doing government projects that you have to submit reports to the government on your projects all the time. So a lot of that, and then billing, and then I would do some strategic planning with them as well, where they would have, but I would say it was more traditional, like accounting manager slash controller work.
Okay. How big was this company?
Um, it probably had, I don't know, 30 to 50 employees at the time, and
Okay,
mostly
fairly small.
engineers. Yeah.
Okay. And then what did you do in terms of strategic planning?
I was contributing to their annual plans. They would kind of plan for what projects they were going to do next year, and so I would build the financial plan based on what their sales projections were.
Would that also involve like forecasting for capacity, like hiring and stuff?
Yeah,
So there's some like human resource forecasting that you did there as well.
yeah. I don't think it was a huge part of the role, but yeah, there was some of it.
To be fair, the role itself is quite small, so I think
Yeah,
whatever you did, it was probably significant. Um,
yeah. I was kind of, and even then, I don't even think I was there maybe 30 hours a week. So it was just a lot of keeping up with the accounting.
okay. Anything else that you remember about that role that you changed or had a positive impact on?
I think before I was there, they didn't have somebody who was contributing as much input to the management as I was.
Hmm.
But other than that,
What do you mean by that?
just taking an active role in the management team instead of just being a, you know,
Bookkeeper.
bookkeeper. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. Anything else you want to add for the Ridgetop experience?
No.
Awesome. Uh, let's talk about then DSAT communications. This is a fairly long role, but how big was this company? Or
It's
community, sorry,
decent
not
communities.
communications. Yeah,
So
my
they
bad.
had about 150 employees, I think, at the height of it. So it's still fairly small, but it was a Arizona-based home builder. So we were building in actually all over Arizona. Uh, we had mostly southern Arizona. We also had some projects in northern Arizona. And then they owned several subsidiaries that were kind of contracting related.
Hmm.
This is my first controller job out of public accounting, so um, just did a lot of learning how to be a controller there. I think, and um, working with the CFO real closely there, his partner strategically, and he would basically just give me a lot of the um, supervision, accounting supervision functions where I was overseeing the staff and making sure the books were closed, and um, we had quite a bit of reporting responsibilities. We had an audit, and we actually used to do a lot of the tax work on some of the various partnerships in house. And then we had a private equity group that we worked with that we would give our kind of business plan pro forma to, and we would raise some capital through them. It was also growing really really fast when I started, and then obviously just kind of fell off a cliff during the crash. So
Well, let's talk about the growth then. What did you have to do in order to support that growth until it was sustainable?
um, I mean, we had to. Wouldn't say that I changed a lot of processes there, but we did have to change some in order to scale.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to do things like only paying contractors and collecting lien releases on certain days of the month and having like real specific schedules around when things were done. Um, Working with their lender quite a bit on, because this is like a developer, so we would take a raw piece of dirt, a piece of land, and have a whole business plan around how you're going to develop the land, build houses, and sell them over the next sometimes 3 to 5 years or longer.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of kind of planning stuff, and then making, um, you know, you're you're really responsible for a lot of cost accounting, right? Because you
Mm-hmm.
have so all that stuff.
Okay.
I learned a lot of kind of construction accounting stuff there too.
You said that you helped raise additional PE capital. What steps did you have to take in terms of the financial processes to help that happen? Like, what did you have to ensure and all that?
Mostly it's based on your track record, and also so you'd have um, your historical project um, reports that would show your track record, and then you'd have a business plan that shows how you're going to do that on what you're on the project you're trying to raise money for. So we would basically build a business plan, individual project-based business plan.
Sure, that sounds good. Do you, by any chance, remember how much you guys were able to grow to before the financial collapse?
Yeah, I would say. I mean, it's fairly small. I'd say we were probably doing 25 million in revenues.
Yeah, it was
Um,
fairly small. Uh, did you identify any other areas of improvement? Did your role grow at all as you mastered the accounting part of your position?
yeah, I mean, the hard part about that job is probably when I was really getting good at it, we started going into a real severe downturn.
That must have been so
So
discouraging.
I spent a lot of time with the CFO trying to like
Oh no.
cut costs to a degree I've never seen before, right? You know, you you're cutting your organization by like 50% and then 50% again, and just just really eye opening.
Well, I think there's
So
some merit to discussing that actually, because that level of extreme cost control, the fact that you had been able to, demonstrate that level of dexterity, this is in half and then half again.
yeah, or something like that. But yeah, it was
Do you
quite a
remember,
learning
like,
experience.
do you remember what you had to do or like what the effect was?
Yeah, we had to lay off a lot of people and we had to cut back everything. Furlough, every tool in the book for cutting costs basically. They did survive, but they ended up being, pretty small for a number of years and having to work through some tough years. But um, I think I credit what we did in terms of preserving some not going bankrupt, I guess.